an audience this time. Holy shit.
We are live now, so...
We got it all on USA. Kick up the speakers.
Wow, what a way to start things off. Anyways,
this son of a bitch always presses live on like the wrong fucking moment.
Shut up. I haven't introduced you yet. Shut up. Anyway. Hello, everyone. We are back here once again to review the next new Marvel Disney Plus show. It's been a little bit, but of course, this is going to be the review for the first episode of Loki. This is episode 1, Glorious Purpose. And with me once again is the guy that he never shuts up. He never shuts up. He always has something to interject. Doesn't matter what it is.
You were the one to talk. You were the one to talk.
Shut up. I know I'm the one to talk. I know I'm being a hypocrite right now. It's part of the joke. Anyway, here he is, FilmFan0599.
One day I will end this son of a bitch. Anyways, hey, what's up, you guys? Up FilmFan0599 here again, and yes, we are back at it again after so long. We are back at it again with another Marvel series review. Well, not series review, but you get the point. You get the gesture. Anyways, we're back here, episode 1 of Loki. It's I'm excited. I'm actually really excited to talk about this episode. Would say.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how like it's really only been like a couple months, but it's felt like a longer wait than it has. And I think it's because like it was just so like consistent, like Falcon and Winter Soldier literally came out like a week after WandaVision. So like that's probably why we're feeling like it's been so long. But either way, I'm very excited to talk about the show. Before we do get into it, I guess we'll just talk about like our initial thoughts with this show and things like that. And as usual, I'm going to let you start off first. What was your going into Loki? What were you expecting? All that kind of stuff, and then of course we'll talk about what we thought of it overall.
Was it 2018 they announced this, or was it 2019?
I think so. Right? Yeah.
It was around that time period they announced this, and I was like, I'm not so sure about this, especially because I guess spoilers for Infinity War. If you have. Even though it's been 3 years, but
look. Wait, what? Wait, there's Infinity War spoilers. That movie's come out.
Yes, Kevin. What? If you haven't been aware.
Oh my god.
But no. But Loki dies in that. So.
What? Holy shit.
I swear, one day I'm just going to kick this man in the cojones. Now, anyways, but yeah. So when they first announced this, because I believe it was after Infinity War that they did announce this. So I was hesitant because I'm like, I'm not really so sure. But then once Endgame happened, we saw the Loki in the 2012 time frame. Take the Tesseract and stuff like that, and that's when they revealed. That's what the show was going to focus on. I was like, okay, I'm actually now invested in this. This is actually not only is this a cool way to, still have the character in this, but also doesn't mess with, like the stuff with like Infinity War and Endgame and stuff. So it works all in the play. So I was like, okay, I can get with this. I can really get with this. And then we started hearing more about what the show was going to be about, hearing more details about it. Then the trailer came out. So honestly, the more that I heard about this, the more I was getting excited about it. Because honestly, this was, to be honest with you, this was my least anticipated out of all of them at first. But then once more started coming about it, it started becoming my most anticipated out of all of them. So it's kind of weird how that kind of went about with it. So, so those were kind of my expectations going into this. So, I had I went from being kind of worried about it to be, this is interesting, to be now being really excited about it.
Yeah, for me, I'm kind of in the same boat where, like, similar to a lot of these Disney Plus shows, I feel like I've been saying a similar thing where, like, it was first announced and I'm like, do we really need this? Like, is this really all that necessary? And especially after what happened in Endgame, as much as I love Endgame and, like, still think that's, like, the best Marvel movie and things like that, I just wasn't really sure what they were going to do with Loki ultimately. But then once I saw it and I realized that it was going to be this alternate Loki and that they were really trying to go for something different, and we started to see all this footage of what the show was really going to be, I became increasingly excited for it. For me, it was like this and WandaVision were the ones I was most excited for, mainly because it looked really different. It looked like something that was really unlike something Marvel has ever tackled before. It looked very just like kind of weird and out there. And so I was really hoping it could be something special. In fact, it became my most anticipated show of the entire summer. And well, I mean, I guess I'll just say right now, and then I'll let you get into your thoughts. But for me, this absolutely delivered. I really love this first episode quite a bit. I think they've already done a really good job of establishing a very particular style. This is really unlike a lot of what we've seen from a lot of these Marvel Disney Plus shows, but also it's telling a very interesting sort of character study that I really wasn't expecting. And if the show keeps going in the trajectory that it is, I already think that has potential to be the best of these Marvel Disney Plus shows yet. I think the show has a lot of potential, and I'll get more into this at the end of this video. I think out of all the Marvel Disney Plus shows, this is actually the one I could see going for more than one season if it's successful.
Yeah. So my thoughts on this episode quickly. Honestly, out of all the season premieres that have happened so far, this is probably my favorite one out of all of them so far. I really loved what they did with this. And which
you'll be shocked about this. You'll be shocked about this. That's actually the majority opinion for once. You're not in a minority.
It's great. What fantastic. But yes. No, I really did love this a lot, honestly. And to be honest with you, I think one of the things that really helped this was being almost an hour long, this episode. I think that's I think that's a pretty big key factor into this, to really build upon where this Loki was at, and really kind of give us an idea of what this world is. I thought it was really fantastic. And like you, I wasn't expecting it to be so, I guess, like, well, maybe I should have, but it to be so character heavy in this, honestly. Yeah. I really loved what they did here, honestly. And, with the character of Loki and also all the time stuff. I'm a sucker for time, like shit like this. So the fact that we're going to
anything time travel, I'm on board.
So the fact that we're going to go diving headfirst into this is pretty exciting. I think so far has a lot of potential, honestly. So yeah, overall, I really loved this pilot a lot, honestly. Like, I think it was really, really fantastic.
Yeah, and it's really different. I mean, just getting into this first episode, it's a really different pilot than you would really expect. There's a lot that happens in this first episode, but I'm happy that a lot of it did, and I'll get into why I feel that way. And I guess we'll just dive into right now. So the way they start things off here, I mean, it literally picks up right where Endgame left off, where, he's about to be taken into custody by the Avengers. He grabs that Tesseract and he disappeared, and we don't know where he ended up disappearing to. And then suddenly he's on this beach, and we don't know what's going on. It seems like he's in a different timeline of sorts. And then he's quickly arrested by these officers known as the TVA. And he's brought to their headquarters. We realize that he can't do magic and things like that. And I thought this was a really strong setup, because you're just as in the dark as he is about everything. And I'm going to reiterate what Jason is saying right here, which, hi, Jason, by the way. I'm going to say right now, I think it's really good that they didn't hold our hands in the beginning. You were just as confused as Loki really was, not really knowing what was going on, not really knowing what was really happening when it came to, what was really happening when it came to the TVA. What do you think of the way they started things off overall?
Yeah, I really like that. I kind of like you said, I really did like that we were in the dark just as much as Loki in the beginning, because we start off with the scene that we saw in Endgame, and then we see fucking him going into like this desert or whatever, and then we see the TVA come in, and and I like this. And I know we're probably gonna talk about it more, throughout the episode, but like, I really like this concept of the TVA, honestly, an organization who does not want to mess with the timeline, and create, I really like that. I think that's a very neat, interesting concept, I think so far, at least, they're really doing it really well, honestly. I hope to, continually see that throughout the show. So I really like that. And I like seeing, how this plays out, honestly. It was really great, honestly, how it really started off.
Yeah, also, I know I got it confused. It's a desert. It's not a beach. It's fine. Let's move on. Anyway.
You said it was a beach?
I did. I said he was on a beach, yeah.
That's going in the context group. Anyways.
Anyway, sure, everything does. But basically, we learned very quickly on that the TVA is the Time Variance Authority. And basically, they have this timeline, which is a sacred timeline. And Loki has gone against his timeline. And so it's a little bit meta in that way, where like he's not doing something that's aligned with what he's supposed to do. And I thought that was a really kind of clever idea, that like because he went against the timeline, like now he's like put on trial for things like that. And basically there's like this whole war that's going on between different timelines. And I mean, I guess I'll just ask you right now, like there's been a lot of questions about the TVA and things like that and how they really function. I've seen a big misconception with a lot of people that the TVA undoes a lot of the tension of like Endgame and Infinity War, which I think is a really weird conclusion to come to because of what they're really all about. But what do you think about this organization? Like, do you like it? Do you think it really kind of like changes things up? What do you think about them overall?
No, I don't think it's like, I think a lot of people are looking too deeply into that. I think it's just, I think it's just, my thing is that they don't want this timeline to be screwed up. That's the thing. Right. That's how I look at it as, because, this Loki is screwing up his timeline because this is not the direction he's supposed to go in. So, they're putting him on trial for that. I think that's what this is about. I don't think it's necessarily... it's not undoing any tension with Infinity War or Endgame. I think my thing is they don't want to screw up the timelines with those things. They want this Loki to fulfill the purpose that he's supposed to fulfill. Yeah, no, exactly. And like a big thing that I think they did really well is when Loki brings up the Avengers and he's like, oh, well, why aren't the Avengers like being held for this as well? Mobius brings up how like, oh, well, the Avengers did what they were supposed to do, whereas you didn't. And I think that's a really interesting idea because it opens up, I think, a really interesting question of the show. And not to interrupt you, but I that's another thing I like too, is where he brings up, well, the Avengers time travel, why can't I? But then, they're like, well, Morbius is like, well, that's what they were supposed to do. You weren't. Morbius, the Matrix? Yeah, Morpheus. I said Morbius. I didn't say Morpheus. Morbius. It's Mobius. It's Mobius. Mobius. Okay, I'm sorry. You see, this is what happens when The Matrix is your second favorite movie. Anyways, but no, but I like that. I think that... No, there's anything wrong with that, because it's pretty great. Yes, But see, that's why I think I love about this already, is that, it's not necessarily trying to, like, mess up any timelines. It's, that's another great point. I really like that they did address that, honestly, in this first episode. I think so a lot of the problems I really just kind of don't see with that right now. Yeah, I don't think it really undoes much of anything. I mean, because we have to remember, like, this Loki is not the Loki that we saw in, like, Thor Ragnarok, Infinity War. Like, this is the Loki that was still, like, very devious. He was very evil. He wanted to take over, what does he call it, like, Midgard? Yeah, Midgard or Earth, that was, like, his entire
goal. That's what he wanted to do. So like, I think they did a really good job with like, you know, setting all of that up. So I really don't have any issue when it comes down to, I really don't have any issue when it comes down to the introduction of the TVA and things like that. I don't think it ruins much of anything. But basically he's found guilty. He's basically put in to be reset, and he's not taking any of this seriously. Like, he's just like, this is ridiculous. Just send me back to where I'm supposed to be. And again, the audience themselves are just as much of a loss. We don't really know what's going to happen here. So basically, he then eventually meets Owen Wilson's character, Mobius, which, I mean, we should just talk about right now. Owen Wilson being in this show was something that a lot of people were talking about. It was a very interesting casting choice when it was initially announced that he was going to be in the show. But I got to say, I absolutely dug it. I absolutely dug what Owen Wilson in the show so far. I think he is doing a really great job at taking his like traditional sort of comedy style and sort of making himself the straight man of the show. Like, he's now someone that is a little bit more hard-edged. He's a little bit more serious, but I also like that he is legitimately a fan of Loki. Like, this isn't someone that's just like the stern guy that doesn't give a fuck about him. No, he generally does like Loki. Like, he's a fan of him, and I think that's a really fun idea, and I think he's doing a really good job. What do you think of Owen Wilson in this show so far?
Dude, he fits right in. Like, he fits so right in. Like, it's like like it's so great. Like, I love him in this already. I think he does, like you said, you know, he takes his traditional comedy, like, you know, stuff, and you know, he's playing really kind of the straight man here, and, you know, being a little more on edge, and he's doing a really great job so far. And I'm already enjoying his chemistry with Loki. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think he's.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, guess we gotta wait.
Okay, like I was saying, yeah, he was really great in this. Like I said, I'm already enjoying their chemistry with each other. So yeah, he just fits right in. Like he really does fit right in.
Yeah, definitely. I think the dynamic that those two have is so good. With I mean, just from that one trailer alone, when we first saw him in that elevator, and he's like, you know, you're just constantly talking and things like that. I thought it was such a fun dynamic, and they really built off of that very well. And yes, very good question. He has not said wow yet. He has not said wow. We need him to do that, and hopefully,
you know what? He's not going to say it until the finale. I'm calling it right now. In the finale, he's going to say it.
Yes, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. It's like how people kept speculating that Nick Fury was eventually gonna say motherfucker. It happened in Captain Marvel. Now, not necessarily the scene I wanted it to happen in, but it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen eventually. So I'm sure we will end up getting there at some point. But no, legitimately, I really like this character a lot. I really like the dynamic he has with Loki. And again, I like that he's not just like this stern sort of you know, TVA agent. He's someone that generally is a fan of Loki. He wants him to get on the right path. And I think once he's introduced, it opens up a really interesting idea for this show, because basically they kind of have a bit of a therapy session for like the rest of this episode. That's kind of what a good portion of this episode is, the therapy session between Loki and Mobius, where Loki, again, he just kind of wants to get out of there. He doesn't really want to be part of any of this. He thinks it's all just ridiculous. And Mobius brings up a really interesting question where, you know, he talks about how he's, you know, getting defeated by the Avengers and things like that. And he asks him like what he really wants. And Loki says that he wants to really like take over Midgard. And so Mobius asks him this question where, you know, does he enjoy hurting others? And this is where we get to the stuff that I really liked. I was not expecting to get this introspective with Loki's character already, but I'm glad that we did, because of the fact that it gets Loki to a point that I think he kind of already needs to be at, where he's kind of accepting the fact that, no, I don't like hurting other people. I don't like it. Like, initially, he just kind of shrugging off. He's like, what kind of question is that? You know, that's kind of like that. I don't really understand why you're asking me this question. But after a while, he starts to realize, what's really going on. And he's, he doesn't understand what the TVA is really all about. But Mobius starts to bring up things that were in his future. And what did you think of all this stuff? Like how in depth they really got with Loki's character? Like I said, I would not have expected them to get this in depth with the first episode, but they're already doing a really good job with that.
Oh yeah, like I thought it was really great, honestly. I really enjoyed that scene a lot where they're looking through the footage and like you said, pretty much kind of having like a therapy session in a way. And I really loved it a lot. I loved how deep we're already getting into this with the character, and I kind of was somewhat expecting this, maybe not as as like large as it was in the first episode, but I was expecting, for us to go down this route at some point in the episode. But but it does take up a large portion of the episode. I'm actually glad that it does, honestly, and I really love it a lot. Honestly, I thought it was really great. Honestly, so yeah, I thought it was really fantastic.
Yeah, I really love what they end up doing, and similar to Endgame, the way that they're taking Thor: The Dark World, the worst movie in the MCU, and again, giving it more of a purpose. The idea that Loki's the reason that Frigga died, because that is kind of true. He's basically the sole reason why his mom ended up dying, and him having to see all of that. But not just that, then him basically seeing his entire life, like, literally flash in front of him, like him seeing everything that he's supposed to do, with him killing Frigga and then him getting redeemed and then him starting to go down a more heroic path. And then the second that he starts to, he's cornered by Thanos, and then Thanos ends up killing him, and Loki telling him that he'd never be a god and things like that. Just, oh my God, Tom Hiddleston in this scene just did such an incredible job with just pouring out all of his emotions. You really got the sense that he really was just kind of seeing his entire destiny and realizing, whoa, this is definitely not where I'm supposed to be going. I'm supposed to die. Like, it's a really interesting thought where you kind of imagine yourself in his position where you're like, holy shit, I'm going to die at some point. This is what's going to happen to me. And him not being able to change that. Again, I think it's a really interesting idea. I really like what this show is saying about free will and things like that. I think it opens up a lot of interesting questions. But for me, I mean, this was absolutely the standout scene in the episode, and what they end up doing. And he really kind of did like go through all 7 stages of grief here, and just so quickly in that way. I think what was so impressive is that none of it really felt rushed. It all just kind of worked in this episode. But what did you think of that scene where he's, getting to see everything?
I agree. This was the standout scene for me in the entire episode. I really loved it a lot, honestly. And, Tom Hiddleston is always great in this role, but I think this might be his finest moment yet, honestly.
Yeah, I think so too.
Performance-wise, he's really great in this scene, honestly, and I really loved it a lot, honestly. It was just like, it was the expression, your life flashing before your eyes, and literally it was in that case for this version of Loki. I really loved it a lot, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to see him already get to this point, and then that realization that, like, I can't go back. Like, I'm kind of stuck here, and like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing now. I think is a really interesting idea. And I don't think this show is trying to say like that version of Loki is not going to happen. Like, I don't think it's erasing that version. I think that this iteration of Loki is going down a different path, and he's finding a new way to be redeemed, to create a new phase of his life, so to speak. I think that's kind of what this show is really trying to get at, is the idea that, can he go down a different path? Can he do something different? Or is he just stuck in that one timeline? I think that's kind of like what they're hinting at.
Yeah, for sure. And I really like that a lot, honestly. It's not like it's trying to erase, like, that Loki from that previous, that's no more. I don't think that's what they're doing, and it's just showing that this one is going to go down a much more different kind of heroic path. And I'm really looking forward to that, honestly. I think it could lead to some really interesting stuff. Honestly, I'm really excited to see where we'll go in the rest of these episodes.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm very excited to see what they end up doing. But I think the other big thing to talk about that we find out, because, you know, Loki, he's still very much like obsessed with this Tesseract. He wants it. You know, the whole reason that he got away is because he wanted that Tesseract all to himself. But we realize in the TVA, that shit is like nothing. Like the Infinity Stones are just kind of like playing with them, almost like they're just like just blocks or whatever. I mean, really interesting idea that these things are basically powerless within the TVA. How do you think that's going to change up the dynamic of the show overall?
You know, it is interesting, you know, that these are just essentially props to them. Like that's essentially what these things are. So it's interesting, honestly, and you know, because basically the fucking Tesseract is just a block, like just literally
it's
just a
nothing,
block. Like it's so. It is interesting, honestly. I know a lot of people are already complaining about stuff like that already, but I think it's an interesting idea, honestly.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, and I kind of like it too, honestly. I think it's a pretty neat idea.
Yeah, I think the other thing that it's going to do really well is it's going to get us to not rely a lot on like the magical stuff that we normally see in these Marvel shows, because again, that stuff is defective within the TVA. So we're not going to get to see a lot of that stuff. And I think it's going to bring about a much different kind of project for Marvel overall. Now, this is an interesting question. I actually forgot about this. Now, the Soul Stone wasn't visible in Casey's drawer. Do you think there's a reason for that, or what do you think that's really all about?
I'm not so sure. I didn't even realize that, actually.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing that up.
No, yeah, good on Jason for pointing that out. Somehow that got past me, but yeah, that's interesting.
But it is interesting because, you know, well, yeah, it may, I don't know, maybe because maybe the TVA doesn't want to sacrifice his soul to get it. I don't know. Or maybe someone just hasn't brought it along yet. I'm not so sure, but who knows?
Yeah, we'll really just have to see what ends up happening there. But of course, the big revelation at the end of this episode is we find out the reason that he cannot return to his timeline, and the reason that he has to help Mobius is because the person that they are hunting down that's killing all of these TVA officers and like stealing all the technology turns out is another variant of Loki. That's why they've referred to him throughout this entire episode as the Loki variant and things like that. And this is going to change up, for me, this is going to change up a whole dynamic of the show, I think. I think this is going to be a really interesting idea, the idea that there's different versions of Loki and things like that. I know they recently announced that he is genderless, he's genderless, which I think is a really interesting idea. There's like different versions of him out there. So people are thinking maybe this is Lady Loki. I know Richard E. Grant has a hidden role in the show. So I think that's going to be a different iteration of Loki. And I think that's going to bring out like different versions of this character that we haven't seen before. So I'm really excited to see what they get at with this, because I mean, we didn't see what this Loki looks like at the end of the episode. And I think that's definitely intentional. So I don't really know where they're going to go after this moment, but I think it's a really, really interesting idea. The idea that he's literally going to be battling himself in this show.
Yeah, and you know, because I did think they were. I was like, I really hope they don't reveal what this character looks like at the end of the episode. Yeah. I was so glad that they didn't, because I like keeping up with the mystery of what this other version of Loki is looking like, you know. And who knows? Maybe it is Richard E. Grant. Maybe it could be that. Honestly, it would make a lot of sense. But yeah, I'm very excited, man. I think like I said, there's a lot that they can do with this already, and you know, I really hope that they execute this very well with these next 5 episodes, honestly, because this is 6 episodes, right? So so I'm really hoping with these next 5 episodes we're really gonna execute this idea really well. I'm so excited to see where this is gonna go, honestly. I think there's a lot of potential for this to be something really special, honestly, and I'm very excited to see where the rest of this goes down.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's just really, there's so many possibilities for what they can really do. And I'm looking forward to seeing what really happens when it comes to this part of the show overall. But yeah, I mean, that's really everything that happens in this first episode. Just getting into the directing here. The one thing I will say about this show that I think is really great is that, and this has been the case for a lot of these Marvel shows, but this one especially, I think that Kate Herron as a director has given the show a very specific feel to it. Yes, obviously it does get really in depth with the character stuff, but the comedy is just so wacky and out there. I mean, I think of like the instructional video that he watches about the TVA, or when he's controlling, when he's controlling Wunmi Misaka's character, Hunter B-15, like with the remote, and she's telling him to stop and things like that. I mean, this show is really funny, and I think the comedy is really working so far. And I think, again, it gives the show a very like quirky feel that I think overall really does work well for this show.
Yeah, that's another thing. I really liked the comedy here, honestly.
Yes.
Like whether it be the instructional video.
Oh my god, I was dying. Terrace is so good in that role.
I was just about to say, I love the fact that they got her to play the clock. It's amazing.
Yes.
Or the scene where the guy's like complaining about the ticket, and fucking Loki's like looking all over his fucking to find his ticket.
And then when he thought he was a robot.
Yeah. Or when he's trying to threaten the guy, he'll gun him like a fish. Like.
Yeah,
like it's fucking hilarious. Like so
good.
I really love the comedy already with this, honestly, and I'm really liking the direction that this is going in. Who's the director's name again?
Kate Herron.
Kate Herron really, I think, is already bringing a really unique style to this. Honestly, like with all these shows, honestly, really bringing something different than what we've seen previous in the MCU, and I'm already excited to see what else she will do with this.
Yeah, and I just think her style it's very specific for this show, and I think it's really going to help it stand out really well. The writing as well in this show, again, it's really great. They're doing a really great job of diving deep into his character, but also introducing this new idea of the TVA. I mean, it really brings up infinite possibilities, and again, especially the idea like, is he in control of his fate, or is it already predetermined by the TVA? I think is a really interesting idea. And is he going to be able to go on these adventures with Mobius, or is he just going to find himself, back to where he was, like, in his original timeline? I think there's some really interesting questions that this show is already bringing up. And again, I really think it's due to just how well written the show already is. I think they're doing a really great job with that.
Yeah, the writing here is really fantastic, honestly. I'm already loving the screenplay with this already. It's so good, honestly. I'm really loving it a lot. It's honestly really fantastic. So, yeah, I'm already digging it a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I'm very excited to see where everything ends up going when it comes to when it comes to the TVA and things like that. But the other thing that we have to bring up is just the look of this show is so visually stunning. The TVA is one that is a very visually arresting look to it. The way that it almost has the look of like a hotel at points, I think is a really interesting idea. I really like just the look and feel of everything. And that's something that going into the show, I was really excited about. Just watching the trailer, it seemed like it was going to be just like visually stunning in that way. And it definitely seems like they are not holding back when it comes to the visuals of the show. And again, I think in a show that probably is not going to have a lot of the normal like magic stuff, because Infinity Stones don't work, Tesseract doesn't work, all that kind of stuff. I think that they're really going to make up for that when it comes to the locations and just the set design of everything. It's just absolutely gorgeous, and something that it really kind of sucks you into this show overall.
Yeah, for sure. I really am enjoying the set pieces already with how the TVA looks. So I'm interested when they go to, let's say, when they go to other set pieces and stuff like that. I'm very excited to see how that will look, because I already do think the visuals are really fantastic with this, honestly. They are really incredible. I really love how this looks, and I'm really excited to see where else they could take the atmosphere and the locations and visuals and stuff like that.
Yeah, I really do like the look of this show. The score as well, I think is a really good one. Again, it gives the show a very like weird sort of feeling that I'm really loving a lot, and I think it definitely does stick out. Natalie Holt did a really good job composing the score, but the other thing I really do want to bring up about the show, and I talked to you about this when we finished the first episode, is that I really love the pacing of this show because to me, going, and I don't want to compare because I don't like to compare the shows, but the only other Marvel show that's had 6 episodes is Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And if you guys remember when watching my reviews, to me, it felt like that was a show that was not originally supposed to be 6 episodes and was trimmed down to 6 episodes. This show is already utilizing the fact that it's 6 episodes. They're kind of like moving through things quickly, but it doesn't feel rushed. It feels very organic. It feels like this show is meant to be 6 episodes and they're writing it as a 6-episode season. And they're doing a really good job with that. They're moving it very quickly. And, the reason I'm comparing Falcon and Winter Soldier is that show, the first 2 episodes were kind of slow, it moved things in a slower pace. And so everything kind of felt rushed at the end. I don't think that's going to happen with the show because they're already moving very quickly through things. So we're already like really just getting to the point of everything. We already know what this show is all about. We know that it's going to be him and Mobius on this quest to stop the evil Loki or stop this iteration of Loki from doing whatever they're doing. And I think that's a really fun idea. I think that they're not trying to make it anything more than it is. They're not trying to overcomplicate in that way. I really do love the pacing of this show. I love the way they just kind of threw us in there. And for me, at least so far, I think it's probably the most well-paced show that they've done yet of these MCU Disney Plus shows. I know we're only 1 episode in, but I already think they're doing a really good job of moving through everything in a way that feels organic and not in a way that feels like it's been kind of tampered with because of restrictions or because they had to tone it down. Like, it really does feel like this show was meant to be 6 episodes and they're already moving through it very well.
Yeah, I agree. I really love the pacing of this. I think they utilize. I believe this episode was 53 minutes long.
Yep.
Yeah. So I really do think they utilize the time of that really well to get us through to introduce us to the TVA is. Get deep with Loki's character. So I think they they stretched it out really nicely, honestly. Like, I really do like how this episode was paced, honestly. And, out of the, I'll do a bit of a better comparison. Out of the series premiere episodes, I think this one utilized the pacing of it the best, I think, to really introduce us to the characters the best, introduce us to the world. I think they do a really fantastic job, honestly. And already, I hope with the rest of the episodes, they use the pace just as well as they did with the first episode.
Yeah, because I know a big complaint with like the other Marvel shows, and not really with WandaVision for me, but more so Falcon and Winter Soldier for a lot of people, is that it was moving kind of slow. It was moving to a point where you didn't really know what was going to happen. And I don't feel like that's the case with this show. They've already given you a really good outline of, what's going to happen here. So I don't think there's going to be a point in this show where it's like, where is this going? I think they're already doing a good job of moving quickly through everything. So I was definitely a big fan of that. Overall, I was just a really big fan of this first episode. If I had to have any complaints, I would say, because there really is a lot of stuff I like here. The only thing I will say about this show is that while it is very focused on Loki, I felt like all the other characters that weren't Mobius, I just don't really know them right now. I like Gugu Mbatha-Raw. I like Eugene Cordero, or like Casey's character. I think he's a lot of fun. I like Wunmi Mosaku, but we don't really know them yet. And I think that the show didn't really give us enough time with some of them. But really, other than that, I think this was a really strong first episode. There's a lot of things that I think it overall did really well. I think that they really did move through things in a way that, again, felt organic. The world building with the TVA, I thought, was very strong here. And the way they're able to dive so deep into Loki's character already, it just gives me a lot of promise for this show. It's clear that the goal of this show is not to undo anything we've seen with Loki's character, but build on it and show how he kind of moves, like, how he moves past it, and how maybe it introduces a new phase of his life that we really haven't seen before. The idea that there's other iterations of him out there. This show just has so much potential. Tom Hiddleston just absolutely killed in this show, but Owen Wilson as well. I'm really loving the dynamic between those two. Overall, I think the show has a lot of promise. I think this premiere did a really great job of setting everything up. So I'm going to give this first episode of Loki, episode 1, Glorious Purpose, overall a B+.
I absolutely loved this premiere. I think it's a really fantastic premiere, honestly. I think it really sets up this show really well, whether it be the TVA or, you know, Loki's character. I'm already loving the dynamic between, between Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson. I think it's already fantastic. There's a lot of potential with this. I think, you know, this sets it up really well, in my opinion, honestly. It's a really fantastic premiere episode. I'm going to give this premiere episode an A. Bada bing, bada boom. Now that's an A. There we go. Bada bing, bada boom, baby.
So with that, guys, that's pretty much it for our review of Loki. But before we do move on, before we do wrap things up here, you guys know what time it is for. It's time for everyone's favorite portion where Film Fan is going to plug all his socials and things like that. And we're just going to get started. So go ahead, my good sir.
Baby. All right, you can find me on the YouTubes, the Twitters, the TikToks, FilmFan0599. You can find me on all those things, you know. And also you can find me on the letterboxes at WWEFan0599 because Letterboxd won't let me change their username, and Kevin.
Just like how Loki can't get back to his original timeline, FilmFan just can't change his username because he doesn't have Pro for some reason, even though you should get Pro. You very much should get Pro because it's only a few dollars a month and it's annual. I very much do recommend it as someone who got Pro. But other than that, it's a never-ending struggle. It's a never-ending struggle. I know. It's like very sad. We need to pay our respects. Honestly, just put some respect on Double Nine's letterbox. Like it's definitely something that should be it should be a little bit more respected. But other than that, guys, this is our review of the first episode of Loki. Very excited to dive deeper into the show as the weeks do go on. I think the show has a lot of potential behind it. As always, comment down below, let us know what you guys thought of this first episode. We'll see you guys in my also I know this review is a little bit late, but we're hoping that moving forward, we'll be doing this since it's on Wednesdays on like Thursday or Friday. That would be really great because obviously the episodes come out earlier than some of the others. So I hope we're able to do that because that would be really fun to do. It's not going to be this long of a wait, most likely. Don't quote me on that, but most likely it won't be. But other than that, so for this video, hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
I hate you.